Hey everyone, Micah here with Electrek, and today we're reviewing the Starrun R20. Let's see what this folding fat tire electric bike has to offer. The Starrun R20 may look like a typical 20-inch wheel folding fat tire e-bike, and it mostly is, but it's got a few cool differentiators here. For one, it's full suspension. Sure, it's not a particularly fancy front fork, but it gets the job done. And in the rear, you've got dual coilover shocks. I don't think that's a real piggyback hydraulic reservoir. In fact, I think it's basically a plastic Yahtzee shaker bolted onto the strut. But hey, it looks cool, even if it does mean these are just basic spring shocks. Between those shocks and the 4-inch fat tires though, there's some decent cushioning going on here. I can't say how long this lower tier suspension is going to last, but I can say it works pretty well out of the gate. For an $899 e-bike, or sometimes $799 depending on where you find it online, that's a lot of cushioning. Next, let's move on to that drivetrain. We've got a 750 watt motor in the rear, which is pretty standard, and it gets you up to 28 miles per hour or 45 kilometers per hour, which is also pretty standard for class 3 e-bikes. But what is not so common is the large battery here. That's a 48 volt 20 amp hour unit with 960 watt hours of capacity. That's a pretty darn big battery, especially on a low cost e-bike like this. They say it'll get you up to 55 miles of range, but as we all know by now, that's the pedal assist range. If you're making ample use of that left side thumb throttle, you can expect more like 25 to 30 miles of range with this big boy battery. Though here's where I have to point out something else that's pretty important. Speaking of pedal assist, I found a pretty unique issue with the pedaling of this bike that I don't see very often. You notice how those frame rails sort of flare out there? Yeah, that's the perfect spot to hit your heels while you're pedaling. I've sort of gotten used to it by scooting my foot a bit more forward on the pedal, which is not really great form, and by splaying out my heels a bit when I pedal, which also is not great form, and so I don't really notice it anymore, but it is a weird thing to get used to. Despite some idiosyncrasies like that, the bike has some redeeming qualities. The color display, the included fender set, and 3 pretty slick colors to choose from are all great to see. I wouldn't have minded an upgrade from the mechanical disc brakes to hydraulic disc brakes, but in the bike's defense, the mechanicals do seem fairly grippy, they're just not as low maintenance as hydraulics. But they work plenty fine, and when you come up on strange obstacles in your bike lane, you'll have the stopping power you want. One other upgrade I wish they would have included would be foot pegs in the rear. They already give us this cool bench seat, but there aren't any foot pegs, so if you want to put a kid on back, they better be wearing roller skates. And if you're not using that rear bench for a passenger, well then you might as well not have a padded seat on it, since it makes it harder to use as a storage rack with fewer areas to lash ropes to. So yeah, let's sum this all up here. There are definitely some things to like. That big battery, powerful motor, full suspension, I like it, I do. Especially for that super low cost of between $800 to $900. You don't see many decent e-bikes for that price, especially not 28 mile per hour e-bikes, and especially not folders that are just more convenient for when you need to put them in a car or store them in a closet. But there are some issues too, that heel striking, the questionable use of the rear rack, etc. But for the money, I think it's a pretty darn good deal. I would not say this is a bike that's going to last you for years of abuse like some of the higher end e-bikes I've tested, but for this price, it's giving you a lot more than much of the other super budget competition, and it's hard to complain about that. Thanks for watching everyone. We hope you enjoyed that review of the Starrun R20. If you did, why don't you give the video a thumbs up? And don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss any of our future electric vehicle videos. We'll see you here next time.